Hello, everyone. Thank y'all for tuning in. My name is Jahmari Moore, and I'm here with my co-host Zane Ali, and we are here week eight edition of the Couch Experts podcast. Zane, how you doing today, man?
Good, man. Had another busy week, another busy weekend. We're already here at Sunday evening.
Uh-huh.
Um, didn't watch near as much football actually today. Played some golf with some friends, so didn't get to just couch rot like usual. But that's okay. How about you, man? How was your week? Your weekend?
Oh man. So we look back to last week, right? Thinking about when this comes out. It was pretty crazy just because and this goes into little teaching thing. Okay. So back into teacher world for those of you who are interested and those of you who aren't. We had parent teacher conferences last week. So the first day was normal. The second day we had a full day of school. So like Tuesday. And then after that we had parent teacher conferences from like 4:30 to 7:30. And then we had parent teacher conferences again, same format the following night. After that, on Thursday and Friday, we had PSAT testing, just like practicing in the building. So it was a very odd week, but it gave me a lot of time to catch up on some stuff while the kids were testing. One of those days I had to plan, which was nice. It was pretty chaotic. I had this situation, man. I hate when this happens, but we gotta do what we gotta do. The second night, it's about 7:25. One of the teachers come in, or one of the teachers down the hall. He helped bring in chairs that I had outside of my classroom for parents that are waiting because it's a pretty slow. The second day was pretty slow for me, and it's almost time to go. So I'm starting to pack up, starting to put my stuff away, put my bag up. 7:29, parent walks in with a
Every time,
thousand questions.
every every time.
7:29, and this happens to me almost every year where there's at least one parent, like right before it ends, they come through and they ask me a million questions. But I want to share a highlight of my week, and then I want to hear a highlight of your week. The highlight was that we had a football game on Saturday. John F. Kennedy Commanders, that's the team in Denver. That's our team. And we played Hinckley. Okay, Hinckley, that's located in Aurora. So it was a away game for us, and the kids did well. We got a lot of guys in. It was a good win for our program. Hinckley's their coaches. I'm friends with one of their coaches. Shout out to AJ. They're just good people. We all came together at the end of the game. We had a really good conversation. Like all our teams together had like a group prayer. It was awesome. Good game, good victory, 70-0. Oh, that was so we got a chance to get a lot of our younger guys in. So
Shout out
that was
Hinkley. Good job trying. Oh boy.
Yeah, so just this is the big celebration I wanted to put out there for those for our guys. So that was probably the highlight after a weird week, was being able to get a win and by a big margin, just boosting our kids' confidence because we were coming off of a losing streak, I believe. So that was the highlight of my week.
That's awesome, man. Highlight of my week. I've started coaching BPA. If you guys don't know what that is, it's Business Professionals of America. So I'm the
Mhm.
business teacher. Usually your CTE teachers, career and technical education, they run a club.
Mhm. Yeah,
Back when I was in Wyoming, I was the DECA coach. And so
definitely.
you just kind of run a club, and we just got started. This was our first official practice. I had 22 kids show up for our interest meeting, and I had 18 stick with me after the interest meeting. So 18 really good kids as far as I've seen. Right, I have probably 10 of them in class, but they're really sharp kids. They're going to be a good group, and then we just same thing like sports. We practice every week, get them ready for competition at state, and
Mhm.
if they qualify at state, they'll go to nationals. And this year, nationals is in Nashville.
That's
Shout
right.
out those guys, and then yeah, that was a highlight of my week. My wife, she's not working a 24-hour shift this week, so I actually got to see her and do some other stuff. So that was felt a little bit more natural at home. So yeah, I had some good highlights for sure.
24 hours is crazy. I can't even imagine. Shout out to her though. She seems like she's she's put in a ton of work, just a lot of our conversations.
It's crazy, man, and it's not even like it's 24 hours that quotation marks on that, like, 24 hours is when she'll start her notes, and she'll usually have to finish, like, an hour or 2 of notes, so it's more like 26 hours. I'm like, "This is insane."
26.
So, yeah,
I
shout out to
wonder,
her. I mean,
yeah.
that's puts us in perspective for sure.
It does put a lot in perspective.
Yeah.
My question is, man, when we talk a lot about our work in school and we give little updates. What do you think is like one of the biggest misconceptions of education or just being a teacher in general?
Um Biggest misconception. I mean, I don't wanna be too negative, right? I think a pretty big misconception is, like, people say, "Oh, well, you only work, 40 hours a week." Well, for some teachers, that's true. I'd be lying if I said that wasn't true, but I think that
Uh-huh.
most of us that care about our job, we're putting a lot more than 40 in, right?
Mhm.
Whether you're doing grading or, anything like that. So I think that's a misconception, but, one thing that I will also say is a positive misconception, um, a lot of people say, "Oh, teachers don't get any support from their community." You've got some bad eggs, but I've taught in 2 states now, and I know you have as well. I actually get a lot of support from my communities, so shout out to them. I actually feel like education in both Wyoming and Delaware has been supportive, and I kind of want to go with the positive one there. How about you, man?
Before I get into my question, real quick, how would you describe the community in Delaware or where you work now? Because I have no idea. So how would you describe
Um,
it? If you can, one word, sentence, how would you describe it? Like, give me like a point of reference.
so like what I always tell my kids is like Wyoming's big state, no people. Delaware is a little state, a lot of people.
Okay.
So like there's I got a lot of different kids from a lot of different places. Delaware is growing a lot. Like I've got kids from Baltimore, Philly, New York
Mm,
City. I've got kids from
yeah.
everywhere, inner
Yeah.
city, and then I've got kids from rural Maine. I've got kids from North Carolina, South Carolina. I mean, I've got kids from everywhere. So
All over.
um it's, coming from Wyoming, it's very different, but I think it's been a phenomenal thing to do, just being able to
Mhm.
immerse myself and meet all of these new administrators, teachers, students, everybody.
Yeah. I can see that. I just recently for the first time went to Philly. I think I told you that. And just the East Coast and just how like people move around a lot over there. And so I could definitely picture that um the density in some of those cities over there and just the diversity I think is really cool. So yeah, I appreciate you answering that. I think for me, misconception, I mean, you hit a pretty big one with the work hours because what's hard is that you might have 60 to 80 hours worth of work and I talk to Sally all the time. My girl, I talk to her and it's like not one of those deals where you can just clock out and then that's it. There's an ongoing and growing to-do list that you feel like is never over until the last days. It's definitely, which I think people understand it's a lot more work. I think one of the misconception I would say if I'm speaking from a student's perspective is that I remember being a student and almost I'm trying to figure out the right word for it, but I'd never really humanized my teachers as much growing up. And I try to do that and put myself in position with my students to have them see that I'm a human being as well and I make mistakes and I'm not perfect. I think that's a big misconception is that because you're a teacher, you'll get everything right or you're supposed to know everything and you don't have emotions and you don't get upset and you don't have kids that, annoy you more than others. Like we're human beings and we're working something we like to call human capital. And yeah, I tell my kids all the time, I'm a human being. I'm not above apologizing or being wrong about something. I'm not above any mistakes. I'm notorious for typos. I'm notorious for typos. Whether people have texted me or something, it's like I'm notorious for typo. So I think that's a misconception that I thought about just as coming up as a student versus being a teacher. And I just try to humanize myself a little bit more to let the kids know that it's okay to not be perfect. Like you can still get somewhere not being perfect. So I think that's something that I hope people get a little insight on.
I agree, man. I agree. Let me ask you this: what's your humor like in the classroom? Because like you and me, you've always been like a super genuine, chill guy. Like
Mhm.
you're how do I put this? You don't give me a really sarcastic vibe. You ever get sarcastic with kids or no?
So, it's hard. They always tell you to stay away from it. So,
Uh-huh,
it's like I tiptoe a little bit because with my age, for those of you who don't know, I'm 27, young enough where I'm not calling them, "Hey, you remind me." I'm not saying, "Hey, you remind me of my kids." I'm not that
uh-huh,
old.
uh-huh.
So I'm able to relate to them to an extent, but I'm old enough to understand much older demographics. I'm kind of like the big brother in a lot of situations to a lot of these students. And what I do is I intentionally act a lot cornier than I normally would. And so I'll play a little dumb with my kids sometimes, like I don't know what's going on. And I'll make something they say very frequently, I'll use it in an awkward way to make them like really like uncomfortable, like, oh, miss, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I'll be talking about something and hey, this guy looks like he has Riz, right? Or like I just like kill all of their jokes. The big one right now is the 6'7" deal. The 6'7" thing. I actually had a I actually had a teacher friend. I don't know if you know the Sterling's Sasha. Um she worked at Central. She's probably still there, but she sent me an Instagram video on what it was like, but like the teacher breakdown for dummy teachers like me on what it was. So yeah, that's a little bit of my humor, but I do try to connect with them and bring up stuff too that I'm into. So football, right? Number one example, fantasy. So I'll joke with one of my players. I have a player that he's our quarterback, but he can play tight end, receiver. He's our kicker. So
Okay.
I
You're
joke
Taysom
around with him,
Hill.
call Taysom Hill. Yeah, I mess around with him and call him Taysom Hill. And they think it's pretty funny, which I have on my fantasy team. And so that's kind of some of the things that what my humor is, and especially like the football is a big connection. Um, and speaking of fantasy, right? How's the fantasy looking? What's going on with that?
Right now I'm looking good. I'm gonna have one of those weeks where I score 170 points and I'm gonna
Jeez.
lose to somebody that scores 188. It's gonna be one of those weeks where you're like, no, you're gonna you would have beat everybody else but that one person. So it's gonna be like that this week.
I'm pretty sure by this point I would have already won my matchup against my guy Crawl. Shout out to him. It was just one of those weeks where everything lined up. I got Daniel Jones on my team. I got
He went on.
Bijan. I
Yeah.
got Chain. I got Jackson Dart. I had to scoop him up real quick. So I had the Rams defense. The Ravens are a mess. It's looking good. The NFL is pretty. I mean, if you think about the season and how it's turning out, it's not what a lot of people expected.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. I feel like the NFL is so weird.
yeah, I think it's very unpredictable right now, but I do think it makes watching interesting, right? And watching your favorite team, right? Where Broncos just got a dub, right, in London.
Yeah, I mean, you take wins where you can get them, but man, we look terrible. But hey, Glenn is. I was telling you, I got a lot of respect for Glenn, both him and Johnson coming out of Detroit. They're both phenomenal, OC and DC. So I was really excited about them. But no, man, it's the NFL does a really good job with
Uh-huh.
parity and evening teams out. Outside of your
Uh-huh.
your dynasties, Kansas City and New England, I mean, it feels like really every year it's anybody's year. So no, but overall, I mean, a dub's a dub. I'll take a Broncos win. Last week, most of my students are Philly fans,
Mm.
and Broncos beat the Eagles last week. So I wore my Broncos hoodie uh, to both. We have odd and even days. I wore it to both odd and even days, and they're like, "Come on, Mr. Allen." I was like, "Look,
You gotta let them
I
know.
I
Step
gotta
on their
listen about
necks.
your Super Bowl every day." for however long. Like y'all got to hear about my.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Hey, this past weekend, I don't know how I feel about the game. But it was an exciting finish. It was an exciting finish. It was crazy. We got the win, right, in a very exciting fashion. I think we had, what, 34 points. And then they scored, what was it? I think they had, what was it, 28? What was the score to this game? Let me look up the score real quick.
I should have it on our sheet, don't I? Oh,
Yeah,
maybe
I'm
I do.
looking for it right now.
Uh,
Dude, when I tell you I first turned of the game,
35-28.
35-28. Okay, 35-28. I went off. Listen, here's how it started for me. So I'm coaching this game, and I'm coaching in my football game that I was telling you, um, with my high school. So after I get done with all that, I rush home. So I'm missing like the first quarter. I turn the TV on. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of touch. I'm like, a lot's happening, right? And that kid number 10, um,
Cadero.
yes, I was like, why can't we stop him? I was like, what is he doing? Why can't we stop him? I was like, we have to double him, right? And then I noticed that defensively, we had, I mean, just defense in general, we had some injuries, right? Andrew Johnson, the other safety, like we had guys that were out. So then that somewhat changed how much we played man coverage. Meaning, you know, hey, I'm on you, and wherever you go, I stay with you.
Follow
Versus
you.
zone, where I'm covering an area, for those of you who don't know. So we like to play a lot of man coverage, and it goes back to a point I made in a previous episode about how usually we don't have guys just wide open because there's somebody there. So the first quarter, I'm like, wow, this is okay. Like, a lot's happening here. Midway through the game, frustrated, same old, same old. About to fall asleep at this point. Like, all right, they might as well kick. Like,
Went to
I'm
bed.
like, I'm
I,
like,
I recorded
oh,
the game. I
that
recorded the game.
sucks.
I'll tell my fans right now. I live on the East Coast, so the game got late. And halfway through, maybe it was even the end of the third quarter, I was like, you know what? It's late. I'm tired. I gotta go to bed. And
Oh
it's
my
recorded, and I
gosh,
was like, I'll finish the fourth quarter tomorrow. The next morning, I wake up, I check my phone, I see the score, and I'm like, well, now I have to watch. So, like, what the heck happened?
what
It was
happened the
one of
fourth
those deals.
quarter? Oh my, yeah, that was probably the worst thing. I think I was cooking. I was cooking Sally some dinner, and I remember just watching it. And a friend of mine, Caitlin Suda, shout out to her. Seeing she posted that she was at the game. And so I messaged her real quick and said, "Hey, I need you to get in on offense and score for us or something. Go down to the sideline, help us out." But man, going into it, right? I think the biggest thing is how the offense finished.
Yeah.
I mean, that fourth quarter, we've been talking all day about the execution of the offense. That fourth quarter, now, so let's just talk about it in general. Start from the beginning offensively, right? Talk to us a little bit about just some of their performances and things like that with the offense for this game.
So I've decided I'm gonna remain positive. This was a this was a
Remain
chaotic
positive.
game is the word I'm gonna go with. Because I'm gonna be real with you, that was not a fun second or third quarter. And the
Yeah.
first quarter was okay. The fourth quarter was phenomenal. But if we look at stats,
Mhm.
again, we're looking at Caden Anderson in 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah.
I can't get a read on Caden Anderson, and I want to get your opinion on him as well. So good, and then he has moments where I'm like, "What are you doing?" And I know that's easy to say from the couch, right? But do you get
Mhm.
that same vibe from Caden? Because there's moments he'll make a throw where I'm like, "Dude, this kid could go to the league," and then he makes a throw where I'm like, "This kid might not make it the rest of the season." I'm like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. That first touchdown that he threw on the run,
It's a beauty.
I was like, wow, that is a big time throw. And then to your point, you get the second and third quarter where you're like, hey, it's like we keep shooting ourselves. I mean, it's all the same things: penalties,
All the same stuff.
missed
Yep.
throws,
Yep.
protection. Oh my goodness, the protection was I mean,
We
so
are down. What do we have? Our backup left tackle.
yeah.
Um, did Barnett go out? One of our guards went out. One of
Yeah.
our
He came I think he came
preseason
back in though at some
did
point,
he?
but he went down
Okay.
for a little
I do
bit.
know we're getting banged up on the O line, to be fair, but dang, dude, it felt like they only had to rush 3 sometimes when they were getting
Yeah, so I mean, when I look at Caden, I think that it's it's there, it's close. Um, but we have to be more consistent. And I don't know what the talk was. Coach Johnson, I don't know what the talk was going into that fourth quarter, but between first and fourth, it was a clear difference, right?
uh
Um,
Well,
and
I'd say the biggest difference was that pick. Andrew Johnson was it Andrew Johnson or,
no, and Andrew
uh,
Johnson,
Braden
he was
Johnson?
out. Yeah, it was Braden. Yeah,
Braden
yeah.
Johnson's pick, that woke everybody up, and that's when Caden started making throws, that's when, Charlie Conan had the, 45-yard, receiving touchdown. Dude, I think
Mhm.
that's what woke everybody up. That changed the game.
Yeah, if you look at the actual scoring of the game, it's really a true definition of complementary football because we got scores on all three phases of the game, which is pretty crazy,
Yep.
right?
Special teams,
Special
punt
teams,
return. Yep.
offense, and defense, right? And it was funny, the commentator, when that pick happened, was the pick was bizarre, bouncing off that guy's helmet. The commentator said, "Hey, wake up, everybody! We have a football game." Because
Yeah,
it was a two
yeah.
score game though, like the whole time. So
Good. I gotta pull up that. I'll pull up this play by play, but tell me what your thoughts were on that Teron Kelman, 28-yard angry run to seal it there at the end, dude. He broke like 3 tackles.
yeah,
All we were
so
trying to do was get into field goal territory, and he just decided, you know what? Get on my back. We're done here. It was phenomenal.
At this point so, at this point in the game, the Sally's sleeping. So, she's actually, like, knocked out. I'm
Yep.
making this I have it on my laptop, I'm making dinner, and then coming back as I'm cooking, I'm like, "Oh, shoot, this is crazy." So, I go back in the room, I wake her up, I give her a phone, I'm like, "Hey, we gotta watch the rest of this." So, now, to your point, we're in field goal range, and now she sits up like, "Okay." She's, like, invested again, like, "Okay, this is pretty good." And then dude, that run, because you thought, okay, he got a couple yards good and then you can stop, but he
That's all they
made like
want.
making those guys miss the way that he did and finishing that way. I thought that was one of the plays of the game. Like, to be honest, that run was insane.
Dude.
Uh, and I don't think
No,
people realize how difficult making one person miss in that situation with that many people around. And if people don't know what we're talking about, you need to go look up the last touchdown from Wyoming in that game.
yeah.
Ridiculous. I was like watching it and I had this face.
When I
Crazy.
watched it this morning, I was like, "Why did I go to bed?" I was so mad at myself. Well, here's why. I found it for you. It was 14-7, or no, yeah. Wait, what was the score for forever? 28 to
It was
14, right?
28 to 14 forever. It was 28 to
Okay,
14.
28 to 14 at 10 minutes and 19 seconds left in the second quarter.
Uh-huh.
There was not another point scored until 9 minutes and 59 seconds left in the fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter. I mean, that fourth quarter, I could not believe what I was watching.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What is happening?" No. Anyway, back to your point. Yeah, dude, Kelman looked like Mr. CTE Cam Scattaboo himself.
CTE.
That was phenomenal. He did his own little Cam Scattaboo impression there. He was spinning out and stuff. He looked phenomenal. Um, how about Charlie Conan? I don't even know anything about this kid. It was his first target of the day
Mhm.
and coming up huge with a 45-yard score right there.
Right up the middle, yeah.
Yeah, and again, NFL type throw from Caden Anderson. He put it in between the corner and the safety,
Yeah, in the post,
and
yeah.
Charlie just took off, and I was like, okay. See, he makes throws like that, and then yeah, I don't know what to do with him. He's
Uh,
good, I know
breakaway.
that.
Yeah, they
But
definitely, trying to spread the ball around a little bit to make sure we're getting people involved. Um, Streaky, dangerous. So what it shows you and what it tells you is that he has it in him and is capable. It's more so the consistency and maybe decision making. And then also I will say he was under a little pressure throughout the game. Um,
of
not
pressure.
having a lot of time or picking up blitzes. We struggle picking up some of their blitzes for sure, where we're two of us blocking one guy, another one comes free. So obviously in those situations, it's going to be difficult to really focus on what's happening down the field because you also have movement and disguises that's happening there. And again, in that situation, there's a lot of pressure to perform. But when he has a little time and he's
You look
decisive,
good.
that's what happens. And I think that in those situations where you kind of understand, hey, you have to move the ball, you have to get down there, you're going to be more decisive because it's pretty clear what you need to do. This is throughout the game, you're kind of deciding, do I take the big play? Do I take,
Mhm.
the check down, right? Like, what am I trying to accomplish at this point in the game, in the middle of the game versus at the end? You kind of know what needs to happen. Everybody knows what needs to happen. It's all about who can execute the best. So obviously, in a passing situation at that point, you got to be aggressive. And I think that he was pretty aggressive in the end. So
Was
yeah,
that
yeah.
I was gonna ask you one thing I gotta remind myself, Anderson is only a sophomore. A lot of these guys are young. So I gotta keep reminding myself, hey, because he looks so poised at times, even
Hmm.
for a sophomore. I gotta remind myself of that. One thing I wanted to ask you, sorry to interrupt, is that Kelman touchdown, is that our highlight of the year thus far?
I'm thinking back so far when you think about the context of the touchdown and how the game progressed. I definitely think it's up there as one of them. One of the few times this season where I was like, "Wow, I can't believe what I just saw." So yeah, it would have my vote for sure. What about you?
I think so. I don't think we've had another play mean as much as that one. Like you
Yeah.
said, I don't think we've had another play mean as much as that one. Because obviously Eric Sandvik, our kicker, he's done well this year, and they were fighting to get him the yardage. But when
Hmm.
you can just rush it in like that on a dominant score
Hmm.
and just take it out of the kicker's hands, I feel like that's huge. Because
Right. Big
I feel like
time.
kickers get really the worst end of it. If you do your job, nobody knows who you are, and
Hmm.
if you don't do your job, everybody instantly hates you. So I'm like, yeah. Um, One other thing that I wanted to ask you, Jamari, and I wanted you to chime in on this. Uh, we found a way to score late. We found a way to play complementary football. But do you think we're over reliant on these defensive miracles, these change of momentum plays to get our offense going? Because like I said, we were asleep for basically 2 quarters.
Yeah, snoozing. That's a good question, right? And I think this is a good segue to talk a little bit more about the defense. I think in complementary football, you're supposed to make everybody else's job easier. So I think for the most part, right, the defense most of the time are doing that. Obviously, we have some injuries and I mean, 4 touchdowns to one human being in the first quarter. After 2, it's like, "Okay, we need to figure something out." And you get hit with 4 right away. But I think that it speaks to the resilience of our team and specifically defense. So going back to that question though, of relying it on it, I think that the offense takes steps, but I do think that what gets in the way continuously is shooting ourselves in the foot. Penalties were killing us again. And there was I mean, it's happened on all phases of the game, especially there was a crucial penalty, I think, the 3rd or 4th quarter where the defense was about to get off the field, but then we had a penalty, and then, it was another set of downs, but we stopped them again after that. But we have to learn how to just be disciplined and execute. It really comes down to those 2 things, is being disciplined, whether it's pre-snap, whether it's technique in the game, and then that leads to good execution. So I it, I don't see a situation where we aren't capable. I will say and give credit though in this specific game that the defensive front from San Jose, they brought it, so I don't want it to make it a thing where our offense just isn't doing our job. Like we are playing against other guys who are really good at football. So it's not going to be perfect, but I think that we're still not capitalizing on some of the opportunities that we have. That's just the whole team-wide thing because I think in that second half too, if we look at defensively, if you look at just the stats from the first half and then look at the second half, the defense picked it up. We even ended up getting a defensive score. But if you watch the game, there were a lot of missed opportunities on San Jose's part where they had a lot of drop passes. They had a lot of drop passes where they were open. These guys were open. So, it wasn't like the defense is excused from it too. I think they got more breaks at the end of the day.
Well,
And
Edge it. However, the starting quarterback for San Jose, when he went out, that offense really stalled out. That's when
it's bad.
Scudero
Mhm,
started to go quiet, which granted we moved to zone like you said, but it
mhm.
does make me wonder, could this game have gotten even more out of hand
If
and
he stayed in, yeah.
even more difficult to reach had he not gotten hurt?
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's good that it happened because it tells the coaches, it tells the player that we do need to be better in these zone cover situations and with the depth that we have, right? Because when injuries are going to happen, guys are going to get banged up. That's just a part of the game, this part of the season. So I think that that's a wake up call, but I think each I think it's less of, "Hey, is the offense relying too much on the defense?" and more so, they need to be able to bring more to the party, consistently. And I think they did it at the right time, and I think that's also something that's really important to consider is the timing of these plays that you make and executing, right? Because on the contrary, when San Jose needed it most, they were dropping a lot of things, right? They would drop
They
a lot
were.
of passes. So
Yep.
I don't think it's a situation where they're relying too much. I think more so they need to bring more because the defense also gets lucky. They get lucky sometimes. And
Well, the interception off the kid's helmet straight to Johnson was, you couldn't ask for a bigger blessing, especially at that point of the game.
I'm pretty sure it was like the ball was tipped first too. I
It
think
was tipped, then off the
and
kid's
off the
helmet, and
helmet,
then
and
just
then they
right.
landed right in the hand, and it was great. I mean, I remember we played Boise State a few years ago, few years back. I wasn't playing at this time, but I went to this game, and towards the end of the game, Boise's running back had fumbled like fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, landed right in our defensive player's hand, and it almost led to a score. Sometimes it just happens. Sometimes it's just right place, right time. Was there any specific performances that stood out to you on defense?
I thought really across the board we had some nice tackles. Obviously Braden Johnson, to me, he's the player of the game. He's
Mhm,
what who flipped the momentum. Don't get
mhm,
me wrong, Ron Kelman had the run of his life, and I think Andrew had a phenomenal, or Caden Anderson, excuse me, had a phenomenal game as well. But Braden Johnson, without that pick six, I'm not sure the momentum turned back into our favor,
mhm,
because they were kind of steadily marching down the field. They had that freshman quarterback. I'm blanking on his name, but mobile quarterback. And the other shout out I want to give to Aaron Bull and his defense, when they brought in that freshman quarterback and he was more of a mobile guy, they had those run packages for him. We spied and stayed with him way better than we have the last three mobile quarterbacks. So that was phenomenal to see. Anyway, I digress. I think Braden Johnson had a phenomenal job. Desmond Hearns had 8 tackles. He also had a pass defense. Tice Westland had 7 tackles.
mhm.
But there was guys all over. There was oh now I'm blanking on names. Anyway, we had a ton of guys contribute. Um, how do you balance, Jamari, when you're going into practice the next week? Yes, we had the pick six, and the secondary did well or did better in the fourth quarter. But how do you balance that with going into practice the next week and also looking at our secondary tape from the first half?
So first off, you got to celebrate the win. You got to celebrate the win right
Win's
away.
a win, man. Yeah.
So it's more about celebrating the win initially, and then later throughout the week, you kind of watch the film and hey, we need to clean this up. Hey, this could have been bad or whatever. It's pretty standard. In any situation, it's hey, let's accept the result. Let's process it, and then let's move on to the next week. So I think they celebrated. Exciting finish, and it shows a lot more good things than negative, but they're gonna adjust it in film. So then you kind of start the week usually like on a Monday if you probably already watched the film by then on your own, and then by Monday you watch it as a team and you go over things that could have been better. And then you focus on the next one. And I'm pretty sure we got Air Force next week, right? Which is
We
gonna
do.
be crazy. Yeah, so which we'll talk about it later. But my
Yep.
point
Yep.
is that here's the biggest points of emphasis that we need to work on because you won't have time to go over every little thing, but more so what are the big point of emphasis we need to take away from the game. And then from there, you move on. So that's kind of the ebb and flow of it, on how it goes moving away, right? Now, no, fans probably moving away from it are like, hey, this is exciting. And I think they probably get the general idea that, hey, there's always a chance for us to win a game. My question to you is, in fans who are watching, right, who have gone to a Wyoming game, feel free to comment and add to this conversation as well. But Zane, in those situations where it's this big up and down, just in person at the game, how do you think fans are just fan engagement is at this point in time? Or just what is like being at a game when you have these touchdowns, it might be slow, or it might be slow the whole game. It picks up like how walk us through that.
So again, I have a weird experience. I didn't get to do it as a fan very often. But what my wife would tell you is the lulls are a good thing because that's where you lengthen the beer snake.
The bear
Uh,
snake.
that's where you go contribute to the beer snake. But no, in all seriousness, I mean, fans gotta stick around. I think we've seen that with the Bills game this year. We saw that last night with me going to bed too early, right?
Uh-huh.
Things can change in an instant. You can get a pick six, and then all of a sudden the momentum changes. But overall, I think the ups and downs, it's all part of it. We've been Wyoming fans long enough. You played for them long enough to know you're never truly out of it, especially in the Mountain West.
Uh-huh.
There's certain teams you're going to play where you can kind of definitively say that you're out of it. But listen, this team taught even me, and I would consider myself one of the consider myself a diehard fan. Last night, I'm not sure we were going to be able to get back into it, and they proved it to me. Hey, take that! We showed you, and they really did. I think they showed. Hey, we were asleep for 2 quarters. I didn't know if we were going to wake back up, and they did. And I think that's awesome. I want them to do that to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Have you and your wife ever contributed or held the beer snake?
I have not. I will neither confirm nor deny that Savannah has contributed to the beer snake, but we'll just go with some head movement
We go with a head
from
nod. Yeah. What is the for people who might not know, what is the beer snake? I had somebody ask me about this recently.
beer snake. So at Wyoming, when they okayed selling booze, well, not booze, they only sell beer. Beer or seltzers, I believe. I don't know. Anyway, it's usually
Uh-huh.
local beer. You can go get beer. They come in these plastic cups. They're the cool ones that fill from the bottom. So you put them on the thing, they fill from the bottom. Anyway, you get your plastic cup, and then what they do is they start stacking up the plastic cups to where it just looks like a clear snake. And then eventually the student section says, hey, can I have your beer cups? And then they make this massive beer snake. And usually they show it on TV. And listen, each one of those glasses coincides to $8. So if you think about the beer snake and how many hundreds of those glasses it takes to make a full length, I don't know, I've seen it stretch across like 12 rows before. You're probably looking at $2,000-3,000 just in beer sales right there. So I wonder how much of that goes to NIL. Is there a way for me to tell the university I want my beer money to go to NIL?
That's a great question that I do not have the answer for.
I
I didn't
want
even
it.
think about that. That's a great question. I never really
Or
thought
bump it up
about
to
that.
$9 and let a dollar of each one go to NIL. I'd be fine with that as well.
Yeah, same. Likewise, likewise. Now, for those of you who don't remember, I think in like episode 1, I talked about how at least when Coach Bull, Craig Bull was up there, we practice Air Force more than anything. We'd practice in the summer. We practice it a lot, and do not let it be a bye week before Air Force because that is easily going to be the most physical week of practice. Air Force and Boise, like one of the most physical weeks at practice. At least that's how it was when I was playing. What can you tell us about Air Force? I mean, they just had a crazy weekend this past weekend.
This is the Jameis Winston of college football teams, is what I've decided. They are all gas, no brakes, and what I mean by that is they're the number one scoring offense in the Mountain West, but they're also the worst scoring defense in the Mountain West. They're giving up
Mm,
40 points per game.
okay.
Just for comparison, Wyoming is number 11 scoring offense. We're the second worst scoring offense in the league, or in Mountain West. But we're the number two scoring defense in the league. Air Force is 1-5. We're 3-3. Air Force did nearly upset a ranked Navy, and then last week they just about beat UNLV, a 5-0 now 6-0 UNLV team. I think
High
this is
scoring
going to
game.
be, yeah, dude,
High
and
scoring.
every game they have, it turns into a shootout.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm not gonna lie to you. Do you think our team can handle a shootout?
This I definitely view it as a trap game. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mhm.
Because all like people look at records and they think, all right, this team isn't good. They don't have a good record. They don't have evidence to suggest that they're a good team if you go off the record. You go off the numbers, right? Worst scoring defense. If you can't stop people from scoring, it's hard to win football games. So I think that it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a close game. I think we always plays them. We always play them close. It's
We
like
do.
we
Yep.
we usually play them close most of the time. As far as a shootout, I think we will probably be able to slow them down,
Mhm.
and then them having not the best defense, which also is a little surprising to me, but because they usually, I feel like usually they would have a good defense, but it gives us opportunity to score more, especially if we continue off the momentum that we had this past game. Dude, I think it's gonna be close though. I think it's gonna be a close game, just like UNLV. I don't think it's gonna be as high of scoring as UNLV, but I think proportionally, I think we're gonna see something very similar.
And I believe this one, we're in Colorado Springs, if I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
yes, yeah.
And
And
so you've got a little bit of that. I think trap game is the right wording for it. Um, I don't know, man. It's Air Force is always one of those teams because they're gonna run that option. But then this is an Air Force team that's thrown the ball more than any Air Force team I've seen before. Especially since I've really gotten into my Wyoming fandom, which I mean it's been a long time, but
okay.
they're throwing the ball more. I think they're better than their record shows, especially when you look at the scores with Navy and UNLV. Um, I don't know. Are you worried about our team? Like, obviously, we got the chance to get up and going, but do you get worried about maybe our secondary versus their tempo, or our offense versus what can be a chaotic defense with us
Mm,
starting to get banged up? Or is there anywhere like that you're maybe seeing a little something we need to keep an eye on, or you think the coaching staff will prioritize?
well, first thing is people got to be healthy. I think when we saw with this previous game, we had to make an adjustment, and depending on your personnel, you're going to call different things. That's what coach, it's always a puzzle piece each week. Who do you have? Who's healthy? What are their skill sets? And how can we put people in the best position for success? So I think that we got to see how healthy we are on defense. I think that's just number one. The second thing is I have faith that we'll be able to slow them down. I think they'll get theirs, but I think we can slow them down. It's more so, can we score enough in a timely manner? Now, if they're passing the ball a lot more, I'm less worried about it. But if you all go back and look at just the last 3, 4, 5 matchups between Wyoming and Air Force, the game goes by really quickly because typically it's a lot of running the football. And when two run heavy teams are going at it, that's a quick game because the clock's not stopping. So for those of you who don't know, whenever you pass the ball and there's a drop or incomplete pass, the clock will stop. So when you have teams that run a lot or run a lot more than they pass, then the clock is running more frequently. So my point is, when you look at the previous game where there's a lot of passing, the game feels like it takes a long time. Whereas when there's a lot of running, it goes by really quickly. So if they stick to this passing game, then we might have opportunities if we offensively have a slow start. I don't know if that makes sense, but if our offense starts slow, but Air Force is passing a lot, I think that the defense will help stop them enough where you'll get a lot of more incomplete passes, and that's going to give us a little bit more time to make sure offensively we're able to get into a rhythm and score points. So I think them passing a lot more actually will work into our favor because if they're just run heavy and they continue to just run the ball without uh really this air raid approach that is not their usual thing, then that takes away from the time that we have and time of possession and opportunities to score. Because if you have more time with the ball, then that means you have more opportunities to score.
Yeah, well, what I will say is they throw it more than I'm used to, which they did only throw it 17 times, so they're not airing it out too much. I just looked up these stats for you. Air Force does still have the second most time of possession in the Mountain West Conference. They're second only behind Boise, so they're definitely still running that rock a ton.
Yes,
Yep.
but to give y'all perspective, and hopefully this helps Zane, because when you look at it statistically, they still run the ball heavily. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you, when you go back and look, it was like there were sometimes I felt like they were never going to pass at all.
And then they hit you over
Yeah, and
top,
it hits
right?
you with a
Yep.
yes, yes. That's what I'm trying to say is that I remember where they would throw a pass every once in a while. So for Air Force, when I say all of this and I give this take is relative to them, to your point. I'm not speaking in general of most teams that pass. I'm saying with them passing more works in our favor
Yeah. Yep.
because again, if y'all go back, those games go by extremely fast when they're not passing like that. So I think that because they pay so most teams pay a lot of attention to the run game and then they're able to do these little passes. Um man, I think that's gonna be something that's small but makes a big difference. If they stay true to hey, we're just gonna run the ball, we don't even really need to pass like that. Hey, we feel like we can exploit something on the front seven. I think we have a lot more. We want them to pass the ball. I think that against them, we want them to pass the ball as much as they can because I think we can stop it, and I think that it's going to give us more opportunities on offense. Because again, Air Force, like you said, when you look up those, they're known for eating the clock. So them just even though you're like, hey, just 17 passes, that makes a huge difference when you look at past years.
They lull you to sleep and then they hit you with play action over top. Like I feel like
Mhm.
I've always seen that, right? They're gonna lull you to sleep. They're gonna run it probably two first downs in a row. Every play is a run, and then they're gonna see if they can get away with one. I think you're absolutely right.
Mhm.
Um, Prediction time, Jamari.
Yep.
Score prediction. Who takes it? What's the score? Or do you want me to go first? You need
I
a minute?
got you. Well,
Okay.
if they passed less than what they did this previous game, when I say that, I mean Air Force, if they pass less,
Then they did versus UNLV.
then I think that Air Force would actually win the game. I think they would win in a close margin. I think they would win like a 21-19 type of game, like 3-point difference.
Really tight.
Now, if they pass more, I think that this it's going to be still a close game, but probably by a much wider margin. I think Wyoming would win. So I think if they pass a little bit more, it might be like a 31-24 game. So it depends on it's toss up, right? So if I want to favor Wyoming in that, I would go with 31-24 Wyoming, assuming that they will continue to pass a little bit more. And I wouldn't be surprised if because of the injuries that we have, that number goes up. So
Yep. No,
what
I
about
agree.
you?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 21-17 Wyoming win, but there's a caveat to that. If they get out to a hot start like we saw with San Jose State, and our offense just cannot play complementary football, I think this is a very hard game to win, especially in Colorado Springs, right?
Mhm.
Because then you're kind of depending on a big field flipping play, kind of like we saw. Right
Mhm.
now, I'm going to assume they're going to get that cleaned up. I'm going to assume that they're going to come out hot.
Mhm,
Right now, Vegas has the spread as Air Force 5.5 point favorites. I think it's going to be more like 21-17, somewhere around there. Wyoming win. It's small, but I think we can get it done. Like you said,
mhm.
Aaron Bull was there the same time as Dad. Craig Bull was there. I think he knows to prioritize that Air Force scheme. And the other reason, you know this as a coach, I'm sure, I feel like just the fundamentals of being able to defend Air Force are going to help you with everybody too. Do you imagine that's probably why you guys practice so much Air Force, or do you think that Craig Bull thought about it?
Air Force, to be honest, they are a great example of doing doing something like one thing very well. And when I say one thing, there's a lot of things that go under that one thing. So they're an option team. And for those of you who don't know, with the Air Force, you just don't have a ton of super big, heavy guys on the team because of the responsibilities and things they have to do outside of football. So they have to be very strategic and very
Quick.
disciplined and quick
Yep.
in how they execute plays. So for instance, they do a lot of cut blocking, right? They do a lot of cuts where they instead of blocking you up front, they dive at those legs. We for those of you who also didn't know, a lot of people who played know that Air Force is probably an even bigger rivalry than CSU. A lot
Hmm.
of people don't know that, but like internally, it's like it's some
It's
real
a big one.
it's a real important game for the program. You look at the history of Wyoming and Air Force. If y'all do your homework, you'll see it's before Coach Bowl. But if you go back and do your homework, there's some real history there. So with that, right, and why there's so much attention into it is because Air Force is great at, and Bears head coach Ben Johnson says this a lot, where making the same thing be something different or make something different look the same and make something that look the same be different. So that's very hard to play against where you've been seeing the same thing all season. You've been locking in on these keys. You think you figured something out. And then they find a way to make you influence you one way and it goes somewhere else. And they're very physical. They play hard. They play extremely hard. So when you combine that, it makes them a very tough matchup. I mean, I can remember there was a time we played Air Force, and this was, I think, around the time Scotty Hazelton, he was our defensive coordinator. So this had to be like 2018 or 19 or something like that. We had practiced Air Force a ton around this time. And like first drive or two in the game, we go to the sideline and he's like, here's what we need to do. Everything that we practiced this whole week, we got to throw it out the window. They know our keys. What I mean by keys too is usually when you're running plays, offenses have patterns. Everybody has patterns, right? And if you can study the best coaches who can figure out what that pattern is, then you know what's going to happen. So, for example, for special teams, if the punter gives a signal to the snapper, like throw their hands out, and then right after the snap comes, a coach would say, hey, listen, everybody, as soon as the punter does
You
this with
see
his
those
hands,
hands? Go.
it's time, the play is
Yep.
going to come. That is an example of a key. So in this situation, we're watching film and these coaches are like dedicated. Like these coaches are spending hours upon hours watching this film and saying, hey, we figured out a key. We got to the sideline and he said, hey, they know everything that we're keying. They knew that we were going to pay attention to this stuff. Here's what we're going to do now. And we ended up winning that game off those adjustments alone. But it was really like, hey, we got to forget everything that we just taught. Here's what we got to do. We'll draw it up. Instead of looking at that, let's look at this.
Fed you some different keys, and it makes me wonder how much of that is intentional for, like, hey, for these games I want you to do this, but then for
Mm,
these games we're gonna have you do something else. Like that's crazy to me, man. But it just goes to show what goes into it, man.
a lot of
It
smart
means
people.
more.
A lot of
It
smart
means more.
people. Hmm. So to that point, I think that you have to be very locked in and dialed in and ready to adjust with a team like that because schematically you have to think sometimes with offensive coordinators or even defensive coordinators, you show a lot throughout the first part of the season, but you might have something else that you want to add or adjust. You just haven't called it yet. You haven't showed that yet. So it's like you still have a lot that you want to add, but you want to be able to set things up so that you can come back to it and then hit somebody with something new because you know people are paying attention to it. So I mean, Air Force has been one of the best at that. They've been one of the best at being able to self scout themselves and understand their own tendencies and then use it against you. So I think that's why they spend so much time on it because what was really cool about Coach Hazelton at that time, once he knew that they knew what the keys were, then he were able to quickly identify what changed because you knew it so well. It's very easy to know, okay, they know that we're paying attention to this guard pull this way, and this guy lined up, and this receiver lined up on the hash. They know that we're paying attention to the combination here, and they're doing this other thing. So in reality, the other key may be this
You know
tackle
right
over
there.
here. So now you know what I mean. So that's why I think they spend a lot of time on it and understanding what they want to attack and understanding that they're paying attention to our weaknesses too. So,
Well, it makes me think of the story Urban Meyer when he took over at Ohio State.
mhm,
Dude, he hired a Michigan coach, not a coach that came from Michigan. He had a coach dedicated just to Michigan's film,
mhm,
keys, and tendencies. That was his whole job. They only
mhm.
play him 1 week out of the year, but that his job was just Michigan. He needed to know everything there was about it, and that's why Urban Meyer never lost to Michigan. I was like, dude, that's crazy.
It's really
Just to
like
have
that, man. That
yeah.
it really is like that, and I think historically speaking, when I've been there, Air Force has been that, and I let people know CSU is our rival, but Air Force is the one that really I've seen guys really get hurt seriously from playing Air Force because there's a lot of scrappiness, there's a lot of
They were
physicality, things happening after the play, like it's really deep.
their play style, I feel like has always resembled Wyoming's play style.
Mhm,
Very run and gun. We're gonna be tougher than you are.
mhm.
I feel like naturally you guys always clash that way. It's always fun to watch.
Mhm.
1000%.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, man, but, yeah, that's what I think we're gonna see, so hopefully, we come out on top and we get to see a little bit more consistency from all phases of the game, and we really have to be disciplined against them, so that's kinda what I got for predictions, but with that being said, I wanted to ask you a couch question of the week, okay?
There we go.
Now, this applies, you've mentioned before that your wife might have a little bit more insight with some of this too. So I'll let you use some of her stuff too. But I want you to describe since this is for people too, not just who have been to games, who probably have never been to a Wyoming football game. I want you, in your opinion, to describe the best part of game day in War Memorial Stadium, or if you have like any a story, a time that you can remember where, hey, this was crazy or this happened when I went to the game, Savannah, right? So what do you have for us?
So, cool story for you, and I'll start with this one. I got promoted, quote unquote
Mhm,
promoted, when I was an intern. Probably, I think it was my junior year or my senior year.
mhm,
But I did it for 1 or 2 years. I got to be up in the press box with like the security people, and when I say security people, it's the University of Wyoming police chief, the Laramie police chief, the fire chief, and then I was our quote unquote facilities chief. So I'm up there with a
mhm,
radio, binoculars, and I'm getting radio calls. Hey, somebody threw up in this bathroom. Can you get some of our crew there? Or hey, we had a fight break out in this section. Can you tell the Laramie police chief? So I'm kind of running dispatch. So I got to hear all sorts of funny stuff. And a funny story for you is I think I can say this now. Hopefully, I don't get anybody in trouble. I got a radio call in about a rowdy student section zone. So I binocular in to the student section, which students, if you guys didn't know, if I have any active student fans, you do have binoculars on you if you're getting rowdy. But I binocular in to the zone that they're talking to, and it's a bunch of my boys that are the ones getting called in, and they're contemplating sending in UWPD. So I very quickly, very quietly just send a text message to them. I'm like, "Hey, chill. You're about to get called in on Laramie
That's
PD."
crazy.
And the next radio call I get was, "Hey, looks like they've calmed down. I think we're okay, but we'll keep an eye on them." But I think that's probably my craziest story is I got to hear a lot on the radio chatter. And just so fans know, they weren't doing anything bad. They were being drunk. It was
Mhm.
what they were doing. They were being silly that way, but they weren't doing anything truly malicious. But I got to hear of fights. I got to hear of people just being very, very intoxicated. But no, man, I love game day. The few times I got to be a fan, the cowboy walk is something I always look forward to when you guys come out of the hotel and walk in. That to me is really cool. Or shout out Blair Ramza. He is the gentleman on the horse that runs out. I rodeoed with him actually my entire childhood. He's
Yeah.
from Laramie, born and raised, so he rides the paint. How cool is that run out, man? That's got to be phenomenal.
Oh man, coming out to Dead or Alive, yeah, Dead or
Yep,
Alive.
yep.
Mazovi, yeah, that's it's pretty exciting. Guys are really hyped. Um, the fans are awesome, the atmosphere, no matter what the weather is, right? Like you just there's a lot of adrenaline in that moment, and it's really, it's hard to describe that experience walking out. For game day, what's really cool, and I just talked through from the player perspective what the routine was. When first you see the tailgate, I've experienced both the tailgate as a fan and a player, and it's pretty crazy. And when we do the walkout, a cowboy walk, so like from the hotel, we walk across the street and we kind of zigzag through that area and see the fans. And man, it's just really cool. I have a picture somewhere. I'll have to find it and share it. But just being able to talk to fans, talk to some of the young fans and those kids. Listen, man, for people who watch, I didn't play a position where my name was called a lot. And it didn't matter to a lot of those fans. It was some fans who knew a lot more than I would think that they would know about my career that would come up to me and say, "I appreciate you," or a kid that didn't know much but just was happy to be acknowledged by the players. So it just was really crazy to see how, again, somebody who's not from Wyoming, how much the team meant to the community. So that was one of my favorite parts before the game, is just seeing the community come out and people just be excited for a game. I don't There's a lot of people I know that aren't into football, don't watch it as much or don't go to the games, but it's much more than a game to a lot of people. It's a community event. It's something where people get together. It's tradition, ritual. So those walks and just being able to interact with a lot of fans and talk to them was amazing. It's awesome. Then you get ready for the game, right? And now it's like everybody's very serious at this point, and everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Everybody has their own routine, and you have some time before it's time to get ready or get warmed up. And everybody either has their headphones or they're getting wrapped up. Everybody has their different routine, but there's a certain time where everybody needs to come together, and then they'll send kickers out, they'll send then receivers and returners, then they'll send everybody. So after the walk, it was like, what was your routine or what was your thing? And usually I wanted to, as I got on the tail end of my career, it's like I had to make sure I hit the hot tub, get rolled out, get taped. Um, they had a bunch of little like energy snack things, a bunch of like they had pickle juice back there. They had all types of stuff to help support us and get ready for the game, which was really cool. It was just all hands on deck, with the athletic staff, managers, and so they took good care of you. And then you can go out early and get some extra work in. It was awesome. So um, just getting ready for the game and leading up to the game was a really cool experience. And then it was awesome when you won, but there's a whole process just leading up to the game from a player and fan perspective that was really fun. But the cowboy walk was probably the favorite part, my favorite part. And obviously running out, the smoke, the horse, and then scored a touchdown. Then during the game, right? You score a touchdown and let off the
Cannon
cannon,
goes up. Yep.
which that's scary. That Sally told me that threw her off. And it's just like the push-ups, right? I think what was the cheerleaders do the push-ups, right?
It's the
or it's the
ROTC.
ROTC? Okay, so
ROTC.
yeah, ROTC. I forgot who did it, but it was like in the end zone after the touchdown was scored, they had to do the push up. So I always thought that was cool too.
Yep.
Um, yeah,
One
people
thing I
storming the
really
field
like
too.
at the end of both fields, like when you first started playing, this wasn't a thing, but this has slowly transpired. The end zones have kind of turned into their own little party zone slash watch zones. I feel like in the
Yeah.
last few years, and I think
Mhm.
that's something really cool that's come about is
Yes.
they haven't tried to like penalize it. They've kind of said, all right, well, if you're gonna do it, like I think they put bars down there, and I think people hang out, watch the game down there. Like I think it's a
Yeah. I think it's cool. It's so different now going as a fan later. Um, because now I see a lot of people I used to teach when I taught in Wyoming, and they're like, they're living the college experience now. And again, I'm not, you know,
I was gonna say you're
I'm
27.
yeah, so it's like I'm not, I'm out of that phase now and I'm out of that, but it's not that far away where I can't remember it. So when I'm
I'm
walking there,
29, and
yeah,
like you and I would still be like, "Yeah, we can go turn up a little bit," and then we'd see our kids and be like, Maybe not."
maybe not. Yeah. The last time I went was maybe not last season, but the season before. And it was weird because I'd see other teachers, which is cool, but then I'd see kids, doing their thing and which is awesome, and they're not kids anymore, they're young adults.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's
they're
like
21. Yeah.
it's very it's very mind blowing at that point. So yeah, I mean for those of you who haven't been to a University of Wyoming game, it's something that's extremely important to the community that a lot of people come together with. And I think that the beauty of having this platform is being able to connect with people who care a lot about that community. So um I recommend going. I'm trying to make my return, if not for the border war, definitely for the ceremony. Josh retiring his jersey, so that's November 22nd. So
Did you
one
get
of
a
those
ticket?
2 games.
I was gonna say, I
I
guess
I
that
I
one
got
sold
working
out.
on that too, yeah, because I know they're
Yeah.
sold out right now, so I'm working on, another little back channel, but
I was gonna say there's probably some resale or something. Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah, so we'll see, but yeah, I'm working on trying to get in, so we're gonna see what happens.
Dude, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Mhm. So, do you have any last words for me or anybody else out there, Zane?
No, man, I'm excited. Wyoming found a way to win. At the end of the day, fans, that's what's important. There was times this was not pretty, but listen, we didn't shoot ourselves in the fourth quarter like we so often do, and that to me is progress. Yes, we shot ourselves in the foot at different times, but in the fourth quarter, this team rallied and they put away the best passing offense in the Mountain West, and I'm really proud of that. I'm glad the team got away with a win. Yeah, man. Any last words?
Hey, this week, let's get after it. Let's be smart. Hey, I want everybody out there too to just remember to be kind to one another. Um, Spread love. Right at the end of the day, we do this to, have a positive impact on somebody's day. And come together and talk about something that's all meaningful for us, that we're very privileged. And there's a lot of things that it's easy to take for granted. So just take a moment to have gratitude for us to be able to, come together and talk about this stuff. You all like being able to tune in and have a good week. That's all I got.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. Please like, subscribe, rate. I don't think we have any ratings on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So I know we got people listening every week. Show a little bit of love, throw a rating on there, tell people what you like. We appreciate you guys so much and go Pokes.
Go Post signing off. Thank you guys.